Hello and welcome everybody to Ben TV. My name is Tony K. Fretton, and today I have the esteemed honor to be having a chat with a good friend and also an upcoming and emerging legend in our LGBTQIA plus community, the marvelous and wonderful Kikki Temple. Hi Kikki, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll start with maybe your pronouns and where you're from and that sort of thing.
I identify as Takatāpui. My pronouns are she, her, and goddess, whichever one is appropriate. And I'm from New Zealand, but I'm living and working in Bunurong country, St Kilda area, where I'm privileged to be able to create and live and do what I love to do, which is writing and performing.
For me, especially when we're looking at queer Pacifique or just queer brown people, people of color in general, there are so many who are making waves and doing different things in their own sort of area of their craft. And for you, one of the things that I'm really excited about is your work that you've been doing in theater recently. And not only that, the stories that you're telling in theater. Could you tell us a little bit about this project that you just recently wrapped up?
We have just finished a season of BURGERZ.
Okay.
BURGERZ is a play written by Travis Alabanza. They are an advocate, a trans person of color that is, I consider, a legend, and is working from the UK. They wrote a piece called BURGERZ, which is really a story about an incident that happened to them where a burger was thrown at them in broad daylight. And no one did anything. No one did anything to help them. No one did anything to kind of even acknowledge that it happened. And so they wrote this piece basically asking the question, what would you do in that situation? Travis had performed this all over the world, I think over 300 times in the since it came out in 2018, and that was the first person that was ever allowed, or that they gave their blessing to perform it other than themselves. Just really opened a whole bunch of trauma, really.
Yeah. I was really blessed to be able to see it. And I think for me, being able to listen to story or see and visually hear a perspective of a trans person, it makes you realize how privileged we are in the different letters of our alphabet. You know, like there's different levels of privilege and different levels of being uncomfortable. And for a long time, like as a cis gay man, we think, okay, well, oh no, I've got my own, we've got issues. But no, it's very, it's like flipped over. And for me to be able to connect and listen to the story of Travis Alabanza, it was localized a little bit. Yeah. And so it was rewritten to be based in Melbourne, which I thought was great. But what I loved about it was walking out of the theater and seeing all the variety of different people in our community, and all of them were touched in a different way. What have been some of the comments that people have said after watching your performance?
So get emails and messages sent through by mothers, mostly mothers of trans children, which has been the best comments that I'm getting. Where mothers or parents, I think we've had one father, but most of them are mothers, reaching out and saying, I never understood my child until now. I didn't understand how I fit in. And really what trans people are asking for is not really just to try and fit in somewhere. What we're wanting is to be believed, to be encouraged, and to be loved for who we believe we are.
Yeah.
And that changes. It's not constant. Like pronouns change as we grow. Our journey changes as the road twists and turns. And the great thing about the story of BURGERZ that Travis wrote was that it explored not only trauma but it's a story written about agency. Right. It's a story written about taking agency over a situation that happened, and basically situations that happen in our life. When Travis was traveling on a train, and how scary that can be for a trans person. I remember a lot of times backing myself against the wall in the train, or on a tram, or anywhere in public where there's a lot of people looking at me, because I know that I'm a target. I mean, look at me, I'm fantastic. I look fabulous. But not everyone sees that.
Right.
And so it can become a bit of a danger zone for us. There are mentions of, in the play, there are mentions about people's reaction to a trans person, especially someone with a high profile like Travis, and with a profile like I do. We become targets. We become targets of bigots and people that are not part of this journey or just don't understand. And a lot of it is about fear. They just don't know who we are. So as a performer, and as this piece does, it tries to give an insight and a window into that. And I hope when you left, and I know that a lot of people that came and watched, what they saw was just a little snippet of who we were, or who I was.
I left changed. I left the theater, and after watching it, you feel sometimes as a person of the community, you're like, yes, I'm an ally. Of course, I'm an ally. I share posts. I do this. I do this as an ally. But after that show, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not really an ally. And there was a really important part of the show where you had a line talking about, okay, because you have audience interaction, and you have a member of the audience, and normally it's a straight white male that comes in, and you interact with them, and at the end of it, it's like you leave our interaction and you go back into your own world, but I still continue on with my life. And I think that was a touching thing for me, where when we interact with trans people in our life, our friends, our family, we are part of that world for the time that we're together, but you sit with it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is heavy. At the same time being heavy, there's also like, there's a positive energy about it. How did you feel about being able to deliver that sort of message as well?
Deliver hope?
Yeah.
Delivering hope, that's a big one. I find hope in myself. I find hope in the good things that I see in life, the wins that I get. For example, waking up and looking in the mirror and thinking, oh, your makeup's looking great today. That's really, really nice. That's a win. Oh, you had a really great sleep. That's a win. All these little wins that you get that you might not think about later on down the track will influence my day. And going by that, then that allows me to bring hope not only to myself, because if you don't have hope for yourself, if you're not like living a life where you're winning and feeling it yourself, then how can you show that to someone else? So as long as I take care of myself first, it sounds selfish, but I think it's more a part of it's more of a tool that way. If you find it in yourself first, then you're able to show that to someone else. In my past life, I was a pastor, but with that, there was a saying in Bible school that I learned. It was healed people heal people. And even though I'm not part of that institution anymore, I still hold on to that because it makes sense. Once there's a healing and there's a story of hope in you, only then can you pass that hope on to someone else.
Right.
And I try to do that with my art as a playwright and as an actress. The stories that come out of me are only coming out of me now, or that are only being written because I've gotten to a point where I've reached where it's no longer shameful, where it's no longer trauma, or where it's no longer holding me back. So then the only way forward for that story is to come out of me and be told, which is what I'm doing now, writing a whole bunch. Working on a show now called Stuck. Okay,
tell us about Stuck.
Stuck. I'm writing it with an amazing team. I have Margot Fenley, who is directing. Margot Fenley is a well-known director in the scene and was also a lecturer at the VCA, the Victorian College of Arts. And another actor called Gabe Kelly, who was my muse.
Okay.
Gabe, great, stunning actor. And we are writing the story about a trans woman and a neo-Nazi being stuck in an elevator for 24 hours.
Okay, interesting.
And the kinds of conversations that you're forced to have when you're stuck when you can't move, or you just have to talk to someone. Otherwise, it's inevitable that you're going to talk to someone if you're stuck in a small space with them for 24 hours.
Yeah.
You're going to have to say something. And the tension is quite palpable.
Oh my God, I feel so uncomfortable. Like, yeah, no,
That's the purpose. You have to feel uncomfortable.
That resonated with me, especially the emotion in BURGERZ. There are a lot of times where you felt uncomfortable, and I think for me, it's really great to hear about you talking about hope as well. Because when I after the show had finished and everyone was outside of the theater, what was the theater called again? It was
TheatreWorks.
TheatreWorks in St Kilda. And I remember different people coming up, and there was one particular that came up and said, I'm a writer, I want to write. And you're inspiring new writers to come on board, like a trans writer. That's important. I mean, I'm a big fan of storytelling and the art that storytelling can do. You know, the more stories that are out there in all the different forms, you know, help tell our stories and help sort of, I guess, normalize things. And if people are listening to all different stories, it's good. Why do you think it's really important for people of color to have their stories told in different formats?
Visibility, access as well. Access is important. We don't traditionally have access to the same tables that the institutions have set out for people that are not our caramel skinned, you know. There are institutions that are already set, that have been set for generations, for hundreds of years, that are let's just say for what it is, they're white,
Right.
and they're colonial. And that's just how it's always been.
Yeah, right.
And I remember I had a conversation with a couple of my co-stars or co-actors or co-performers, and we were talking about, as an artist of color, a writer or an actor, wherever you stand on in the art. We had this conversation where they were like, oh, we need to try and change the structure, change the industry, which is noble and gallant for someone so young. But when you get to a point where you're as old as you and I,
25,
yeah, 25,
so that age.
After throwing yourself against a wall over and over again, trying to change an institution, you become discouraged, really.
Okay.
And then you start to just like, oh, whatever, we'll just go with it. What we ended up discussing was, how about we just take our seat at the table that's there and then change it while we're on there, instead of trying to yell and scream on the outside. Take our seat that's been offered. It's probably only one or two.
Yeah. And
then show them the excellence that we have to offer. The only way we're going to change it is while sitting at the table.
There was I think it was Stone Motherless Cold, another performer who we were talking to, and we were like, oh, if people of color have been put here and we don't want to be a token. And then turn around and say, well, until we are at a place where there are more representation and more diversity in these spaces, we always will be tokens. Like, it's
unfortunately,
some of us have to be tokens before there's more spread, more diversity in that.
And because we're talking about institutions that have been around for hundreds of years.
Right.
It's so hard to change an institution that is already set up on a foundation that has worked for so long. The only way to either change it is to sit at the table, influence it there, be a token until we're no longer tokens, or create something completely different on the outside of it.
I got frustrated around organizers and community organizers in terms of when people of color are putting on shows or putting on different activations in the community, we need our people of color community to come and support. Like, there's no point in saying, oh, we need this production done because it's a people of color, queer people of color event, but then queer people of color are not coming.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then why would we continue? Why would a sponsor continue? Why would a grant continue when they basically feel like there's no need for it?
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, institutions set up and the rules that we have to follow.
Yeah.
How can we deliver on that? And so my encouragement to everyone is, please go out and see these shows. Like, please go out and support.
Even if it's just sharing.
Yes,
sharing
absolutely.
The events.
And I guess that would have helped a lot with the promo for your show. It was a very mixed crowd, a very, very mixed, on different days, different crowds coming to your show. We'll move on from the subject of writing on that note. Because there's so many things I want to chat to Kikki about today. I wanted to have a chat to you also around some of the other work that you're doing in the community as well. Just recently jumped on radio.
So I recently got an opportunity to join the PX Whānau team, which is the radio station at 3CR. It's a radio program, under the affiliation of Pacifique.
Right, amazing.
So basically Mama Latoya, who was one of the originals, on that particular show, she decided that she had had enough.
Love Mama Latoya.
She was like, no, I'm old now, so I get to hang my boots up whenever I want.
Yes.
And I ended up coming in as a guest with her guest.
Yes.
And I said, I'd like to give that a go at some point. She goes, okay, you're done, signed. And so she kind of forced me into it. I was like, I thought about it later on down the future. She's like, no, I'm ready to leave, so you're ready to take over.
Yes.
Like, okay, Mum.
She's the mother of all the brown children in Melbourne, honestly. Like, we love you, Mama. You're my mum too, and I always get in trouble from her.
That's the only reason why I got involved. But now I've gone through training and getting inspired by where PX Whānau can go. It's really put some fire under me to be able to either to get involved a lot more. But at the same time, it's community radio, and I have an amazing voice for radio, amazing voice, amazing face for TV. And
let's go.
And so at some point I would love to move into mainstream radio at some point. This is a good opportunity for me to start into that. In terms of PX Whānau, it's great because we queer Pacifica, we get to talk our stories. We get to give people access to our stories, and in a way that's just friendly and non-threatening, really. And just it's community radio. It is what it is.
You mentioned a little bit earlier around your experience as a pastor. I wanted to just chat to you, really just the highlight reel of your journey, Kikki Temple. How long have you're Maori, trans woman from New Zealand. You transitioned in now. Like, what's the timeline? Yeah, timeline.
When I was in university, I started transitioning. I studied at Unitec in Auckland, New Zealand. It's one of the largest performing arts schools in Oceania at the time, and I started transitioning then. It was a long time ago. It was in the early 2000s. And so there wasn't a lot of language. There wasn't a lot of knowledge around being trans. I didn't know who I was. I just knew I wasn't who I was, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I started to transition and live as a woman then. There was no support for someone like me at the time. And I kind of lost my way.
Okay.
In situations like that, an institution like the church will always swoop in and try and find those who are lost.
Right.
And they found me and they saved me. By saved, I mean put me back in a closet, told me I was a man of God, and that I had a destiny and a wife purposed for me, and sent me on my way and kind of put me through that training, through Bible college and through discipleship and learning how to be a pastor. I was also, because I was a performer, I was a singer, and charismatic anyway. So I fit right into their ministry team as a worship leader. So I went through the training, and after 3 years, I started leading worship as their worship pastor. And then I spent 10 years affiliated with this church, and considered moving to LA, where we had another church that was being planted, to go and work there as well as part of the church. So, but I was still unhappy. I was trying to find a solution to make me normal. That was the key word. I just wanted to be normal. I just didn't want to be. I wanted to have a normal life. I didn't feel gay. I was attracted to men, but I wasn't attracted to gay men. I wasn't attracted to a gay lifestyle. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted to be a mother. And I knew that was impossible, but those were the things that were deep down in my heart. So that's why I was confused. I didn't think I was gay. I thought I was a straight person. And then I remembered I used to always pray to God and say, why didn't you just make me a girl? It could have just been easier. Why do I have to, why do I have to struggle this whole time? You should have just made me a woman. Anyway, that didn't happen. 10 years I tried to pray the gay out of me, and every single time it just didn't work. So I gave up. I had to reach a point where I either didn't believe in God or he was real, and I chose to believe in him, and he made me who I was. And so I just chose the latter. Moved to Melbourne, and then I started transitioning again. I moved to Melbourne in 2016. Started transitioning again from the moment I landed, and haven't turned back since. So Kikki was really born here.
Kikki's a native to Melbourne.
Kikki's native to Melbourne.
I remember when you joined, not when you joined, when you'd come to Melbourne, you were involved with Letene.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Letene is a dance school, a Pacific Island Academy. And that was started by my best friend, Letty.
Shout out Letty.
Saulatonga. And it is the name Letene is a play on her name, obviously, and Tene being child.
Tene is a young woman.
Young woman.
Yes.
I knew that. And so because she's my best friend, I was kind of roped into that as well. I was like, I needed help. So I ended up becoming the manager.
Wow.
And we established the school over, I think it was 3 years.
Yes.
Over the pandemic. And
amazing.
so we did a lot of Zoom classes, but we also did a lot on either side of the lockdowns. And I think we had like 70 students.
I saw a lot of videos, a lot of different things happening, and I really enjoyed it. And when I found out that you were one of the, I think it was like a tutor or the manager, I didn't know it was a manager. I was like, man, Kikki's so talented. Like she's teaching all the different Pacific Island dances and everything. I thought you were like, in there on the ground with the kids. So
I was on the ground with the children, but I was their mum. I was their auntie.
Yeah.
I wasn't teaching them anything because although I could. That was Letty's job. I was there to wrangle the parents, to encourage the children. I was the discipliner as well. Because being a pastor, you're a teacher, you're a event manager, you're a people manager. So those skills came with me. I still use them today. And so that's what I did. I was the discipliner. I was the bad cop.
I appreciate all of that, and I appreciate our conversation up to now. We'll wrap it up with really just sharing with our audience today, like what are some upcoming things for Kikki? What can we expect from Kikki?
Kikki Temple. You'll find me all on socials with Kikki KIKI_Temple. I've got a lot coming up. We've got a musical that we are working on going into rehearsal soon called Guys and Dolls. Guys and Dolls, okay. With Antipodes. We open in August. Antipodes Theatre Company, which is, by the way, a great theatre company for those who are in the trans community, those LGBTQ, all the alphabet letters, and people of colour. They really champion all of those minorities. Well, minorities, I hate that word. And then we've got Fringe. I'm in a show called Fish Boy and Fire Dyke.
Fish Boy and Fire Dyke, okay.
Yeah, so we have that will be at Explosives Theatre for Melbourne Fringe. I think we open 14th of October. And then in November, I'm part of another musical called Orlando with Antipodes again, based on the movie.
Oh, I love that.
Actually based on the book by Virginia Woolf. And there are 5 performers. We all play Orlando, and we're devising this work. It's a musical. It's you'll see a lot of us, the brown flavor. And I think lastly, BURGERZ will be on tour next year. So we are remounting that. And then exciting. Hopefully we'll be taking that back to New Zealand as well. There is another play, but it's not been finalized, so I won't share that. And also Stuck, my play that I'm writing right now, my second play that I've written will be part of Midsummer next year. So
Thank you for watching Ben TV, Kikki. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure, and I'm also very honored and pleasure to have you in my life. And for all the creatives out there, check out BURGERZ when you can, and all the different links will be available online. But again, thank you. Whawhetai lava.
Whawhetai te le lava.